Okay, I'm streaming.
And they're trying to sell their
You guys are live.
for less than the note is left. So then the bank has to be involved, and the bank.
Okay, I hear your audio, Rob. That's fine. Yeah, but we didn't see your face. Okay, there's the movie backdrop.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, we're streaming live.
Great.
Okay, there you go.
I think so. Here's where I am now with this stupid computer. Is right now I have to power cycle my external sound card because it went into suspend, and this computer does not come out of suspend nicely.
Well, you could the computer or the sound card?
I mean, usually if I power cycle the sound card, it comes back up, but this time it didn't. I just need to remember to be a decent fellow and just turn my computer off at night.
Well, you could also make it so that it doesn't put USB into a low power state or something.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
I don't care about going back to anything because this is fun and not real.
Yeah. And it's good at Cliff. Everyone's just joining this one. You know, it's like, I don't know why they just hop on. Anyway, speaking of which, that was my favorite joke in Arrested Development was the stair car and try to avoid getting any hop-ons. I always thought that was really funny. You know,
hop-ons.
Yeah, hop-on. So whenever I hear the word hop-on, I think about Arrested Development, the stair car. How much for the shirts to come off? Come on, Clampy.
That show. I mean, I'm unemployed, man.
Okay, Waldo's gonna take his clothes off. I hope you're happy.
All right, pants are already off. All right. Guardians of the Galaxy. We talked about
making fun of the Guardians thing.
We talked about suicide for like 5 minutes, so I'm glad that.
No. It's just that the xylophone thing. It's for a cell phone that's ancient, and I thought maybe they filmed it in the Suicide Forest. They were trying to cater all the YouTube controversy, and then we talked about YouTube controversies and how.
Thanks for the recap for nobody.
To box, or get into a rap battle, with Jake Paul.
Like we usually are.
Very popular people.
The Enola Holmes story actually makes me grumpy. Because that lawsuit never should have been there.
No, it never should have been there. And like the idea that they used elements of Sherlock that were after 1925. Right. And that's why they owed the Sherlock family something. It's like, screw you people.
Basically, the element was that they portrayed a Sherlock Holmes who wasn't a complete asshole. I mean, literally, that's what the lawsuit was really about.
Yeah.
He was warm to people.
Right.
You can't have that.
Nope.
Yeah. He's a misanthrope, And since they used elements of the post 1925 Sherlock Holmes, like not heroin addiction or something. Anyway,
opium.
Long and short of it was they're like, no, this was our Sherlock Holmes that you were messing with, not the Sherlock Holmes, but our Sherlock Holmes. It's like, screw you people. Copyright maximalists, idea police.
Ooh, the idea police. Pirates. They are inside of my head. That was dumb. I'm glad it got dropped, but somebody was just trying to make a nickel. And I what I wonder, truthfully, is how this story would have played out differently had that movie had like a full-blown theatrical release and like made $250 million of box office instead of going to Netflix and having all of its revenue like shrouded in mystery.
Do you? I don't think it was ever meant to be in the theaters, though.
No,
right?
I thought it was. Netflix.
It was always Netflix.
I thought it was one of those things that came along at the last minute and became a Netflix thing.
So
maybe.
I mean,
either way, I doubt it would make $250 million because
we can look this up.
It was all right.
Yeah, but it was all right.
It was fun, but again, it wasn't a movie for a bunch of guys in their 40s, unless you're like a hardcore Sherlock fan. And it was fine. But Henry Cavill was in that. I'll pretty much watch Henry Cavill in anything.
Yeah, honestly, I've turned around on Henry Cavill. I could not stand his Superman to the point where I just figured it was him. It wasn't him. He was all right.
No, the whole time. It was Zack Snyder.
It was Zack Snyder and that whole DC, machine. It was just terrible. But he seems like he's a solid dude.
And I'm mad at him because he just posted a picture of him with a 3090. So he's got it.
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, he's actually
he's got like a 3090 in one hand. He's getting vaccinated in the other. I mean, the guy's got
He's a nerd. He's one of those guys who's a nerd. He's just a gamer nerd.
Yeah,
for sure. He's kind of awesome that way, I suppose. So there was a radio emission from an exoplanet. I don't know if you read this particular article, Chris, but you should find the article and let's find the name of the system that it's from, because the name of the place that it was from, the Tau Bootis, it's up. You scrolled past it. I just like trying to say the Tau Bootis system.
Tau Boote.
What I like best about the story is it really shows that their morning zoo really isn't any better than ours was.
Yeah,
it's a universal constant that the morning zoo is terrible production and should never be listened to. So,
come on, didn't you grow up with KLQ and Rick and Darla?
I did, just like you did.
Forever.
Toe Jam and the Douche or whatever. Yeah.
Right. The Douche.
The
douche. Was that Parks and Recreation?
That was Parks and Rec, yeah.
Man.
But it wasn't Toe Jam, it was something else. It was like Alligator or some dumb something like that.
I hated those guys. They were perfect. That was Nick Kroll, right?
Perfect.
Have you seen
Kroll as the douche? Yeah.
Have you guys watched Big Mouth?
I have not. I heard it's good though.
Kat and I just finished the most recent season, and I have to tell you, of all of the shows that I've seen that are like adults animating a thing that's for adults but about kids, like in the South Park vein, I feel like it's the only one I've ever seen that hits kind of a level of truth and honesty, and they're kind of just right most of the time.
It can be extraordinarily graphic and gross sometimes.
That's what I heard.
And they're not all great. Now, having said that, the hormone monsters are fantastic.
Right.
All the sort of imaginary constructs that the kids interact with are fantastic.
Yeah.
Maya Rudolph in particular,
next level,
is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I look forward, I can't let my kids see this show yet. He's not quite old enough for this yet. But this is actually I feel like a show where a 15-year-old would watch this show and see the gross out humor, but it's actually they're talking about being inclusive, they're talking about being tolerant, they're talking about everybody is
actually really good for that.
No, it's legit.
It can be actually heartwarming and touching sometimes. Because it is about kids going through puberty and all the crazy shit you think and how your life has changed then. My wife in particular loves Lola.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's definitely worth watching if you haven't checked it out.
Lola has become in many ways my wife's spirit animal as well. Someday I've got to really sit down and work on that voice and get that voice right, because that's a funny voice. We already talked about the Resto mod, right? That was just a kick.
Did we? I don't think we did.
No, 3 days ago. Well, it's a base
I'm definitely
box.
Flashing back to our early days and computers. I mean, that's a heck of a thing.
Right.
But it looks like it's just a sticker.
It's a sticker. Yeah, whatever.
It's a sticker. I'm like, dude, come on. You
It's
couldn't
just
have gotten the $10 disk drive.
Okay, so when we disconnected, we were talking about the radio emissions. Rob, did you have one more thing that you wanted to say about that? You said there was one more thing that you liked about the emissions, and I wanted to know what that was. Oh, it was the morning zoo thing.
Yeah.
All right. So the last one on the list is the Book of Boba Fett, which was the final piece of the Mandalorian finale. It has been confirmed now. It is a new show. It's not one of the shows that was listed in the slate. It wasn't. There was something about some folks thought that maybe this was season 3 of the Mandalorian, and they would now follow a different Mandalorian for a couple of seasons. But that is not the case. But maybe most interesting is that it is produced by Robert Rodriguez, who did, I think it was episode 6 this season of The Mandalorian. The episode where Grogu like prays on a rock and the blue things come up and then he gets captured by the Death Troopers. That was directed by Robert Rodriguez. So he's had a whole episode under his belt. Boba Fett had like some good moments in that episode too.
Wow.
Yeah, that whole episode was like fan service for everyone who thought Boba Fett was the coolest when we were kids, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't this feel like, I don't know, corpse robbery at some point, though?
All right, let's get into it.
10 series.
No way.
I mean,
no way. This is perfect. This is exactly what they need to do.
I really like The Mandalorian. Don't get me wrong. But there's no way it's going to be good after 3 seasons.
That's okay. And here's why.
And if they're willing to take these 10 seasons and have them be exactly as long as they need to be, 2 episodes, 6 episodes.
That's why I was really hoping
be okay with it.
That this would be the extension of The Mandalorian, because where The Mandalorian ended off seems like a natural place to end the show.
Totally. Now, I will disclose to you, my friends, and nobody who is watching this. I watched the episode twice. Okay. The first time I had already been spoiled, so I knew that Hamill was going to show up. I had no idea of like if it was a big deal or if it was just going to be like the last minute goodbye thing. No idea. Oh, by the way, spoilers. So I watched it the first time through and was basically in shock, like some form of shock for like the last 10 minutes. Like I'm just like, is this going to work? Is this going to be horrible? Are they going to mutilate everything that I loved about my childhood? And I got through the whole episode and I realized that I had almost like not enjoyed that like 10-minute stretch at the end of the episode because I was so stressed out that they were going to do something horrible and it was going to make me hate the universe. When I got to the end of the episode, I was thrilled that they had not destroyed everything and that they had treated, the whole thing with the utmost of respect, in my opinion. I watched the episode again a second time the next day and straight up cried for the entire final scene with the Pedro Pascal and Grogu bit, and then when R2-D2 fucking wheels out, and you think to yourself, okay, R2-D2 was at the fucking palace back in the day. He knows this kid. I wept.
All right, first thing first, you got to get a little harder.
That's true.
Yeah, this is
R2-D2 tweeting at Grogu makes you cry. Come on, buddy. I understand we've been all locked up a long time, but
yeah.
Now I'm with you. Going into it, I've read, a lot of people were wondering if Luke Skywalker was going to show up, and I was like, I don't know how they do that, how bad the CGI would look, or if they would just try to, Star Wars Holiday Special and just paint over all the lines on Hamill's face and
spackle him,
take away his beard and make him look 30 pounds slimmer again or something, like.
Or if they'd go full, Jackie Daytona on him,
right,
and have him just like sidle on up to the bar with the little robot. He's like, how's it going?
I kind of liked. I had mixed feelings about it, but in the end, I kind of liked it, I guess, because one of the things the Phantom Menace does, besides absolutely ruin the Star Wars franchise for me, was at the very beginning. They actually use the lightsabers to cut through shit, right?
Yeah.
They actually use lightsabers like you always thought you would as a kid, right?
Right.
So they kind of set that up with Luke taking on all the Dark Troopers, right? They set up that indeed this is one of the most powerful entities in the universe. He easily, single-handedly wipes out everyone on that freaking ship, right? It gives him sort of the status that I think gets lost a lot, because the conflict between the Jedis are always with Sith or other, super powerful things. And I think it's easy to forget that these are super heroes of that universe, right?
Yeah.
And Luke Skywalker arguably is one of the toughest of them. So I liked that they set
and
all
also
that up.
the most brutal. If you think about the end of the Phantom Menace, and I can't believe I'm saying this, as a child, he obliterated and murdered an entire spacecraft. He didn't just like disable an engine or the power supply. I mean,
That was his dad.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Also, that space station was debatably largely populated by droids.
I'm sorry. That doesn't hold. And remember, the whole point of the 80s was that you were only killing robots and ghosts or whatever, right?
Millions
but
of craftsmen.
It turns out that the stormtroopers are just clones. And then they got feelings, right? So,
right.
When you murder all those stormtroopers, you're murdering people.
Well, and all the crafts the clerks conversation. Yeah. He murdered millions of tradesmen on those Death Stars, right?
Yeah, so welder, and also, we need to go down this road again. So, I'm just saying, there's some murdering going on, and that's
in the end, I was
murdered a lot of Germans,
and I kind of liked how they portrayed him. I think they did it as well as you probably could, especially since the Mandalorian basically is as popular as it is because it stokes that Star Wars nostalgia. The entire series, they give you little bits for you to feel good about, and it's not a giant train wreck like some of the others have been, right? So in the end, you're like, this is great, and I think they were successful in doing that same thing with Luke Skywalker. And seeing the end, I thought, oh, this is very nice. They are going to switch stories, and the next season's going to be about Boba Fett.
Yeah.
It's going to be something like American Horror Story, where the idea is you just you tell a storyline and then you switch to a new one.
Right.
And they're all related.
Star Wars
and
Mando story.
And I thought that would be a good way to go. But yeah, I don't know. Now that Baby Yoda's
what they're really going to do? They're going to milk this somehow for another 4 seasons in The Mandalorian. They're going to kick off the Boba Fett Chronicles, and then they're going to have 8 other just also rans that are going to suck.
The merchandising's going to start.
That's right.
Even more than
the Salacious Chromicles, and
So. I'm gonna disagree on some point
here.
You
know what they're doing?
Because
wait. I know what they're doing.
All right, go ahead.
They saw what happened in Japan with Hello Kitty, right? Where Hello Kitty was just for like little girls, and then it became the Sanrio-verse, right? You had Bats Maru, you had all the characters, you had adulty things with Hello Kitty, like sex pillows or whatever.
So you think that they're modeling their future off of Hello Kitty and not Marvel?
Yes.
Like the guys who are down the hall?
No, well, I think Marvel is just Hello Kitty.
Okay.
Right? It's just stick with me.
All right. No, you go.
Like how Disney embraced the Tsum Tsum thing, which was basically an evolved, like a Pokemon evolved Hello Kitty thing. Right, so they totally copied the Tsum Tsum thing from Japan. I think they'd say, wait a second, Star Wars has been kind of for kids and then for teens. We need adult nostalgia, and then we need like super adult, right? So they'll have like some sexier
like Star Wars After Dark sort of thing.
They'll have a Star Wars After Dark,
Twilight Love.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
So. Here's my theory about all of this, and I think that
it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck.
So hear me out, man. I'm the only one in this room who's watched every episode of Clone Wars and every episode of Rebels.
That's right.
So if you watch, especially Clone Wars, the way that they did that show is most of the stories are divided into like 3 episode story arcs. And if you put them together, those story arcs are probably pretty close in scope to like maybe an episode or 2 of The Mandalorian. I think that what they're gonna do is they've figured out that you can take these 3 episode story arcs that they did in the Clone Wars, and those arcs would be like totally different. There's literally a 3-episode arc where it's just you follow the random droids and nobody else from the story is in there. I think that the format of the show being like it is, where they've got 10 friggin' series, it's going to give them the opportunity to do, instead of a 3-episode animated story arc, they're going to be able to do 6 to 8 episodes. And guess what? A third of them are going to suck. That's okay, because a third of Clone Wars sucks too. But we'll get that other third, which will be as good as what we got out of most of The Mandalorian.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think a third of The Mandalorian sucks.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
but it also has undivided attention.
Like even a 10th, of Mando maybe sucks, but the rest of it's been pretty good. But I haven't seen the latest season yet, so yeah, I'm falling behind.
I would say that if you were to go like minute by minute, you'd be hard pressed to find a bad hour out of The Mandalorian. But but I guess
I can't think of an episode I didn't like. Yeah. There's certainly episodes that are better than others, but
I think there's been like if I were to get the list, I can think of 3 episodes that I thought were weak. But I guess that's not exactly what I'm trying to say. I feel like right now, Mandalorian has the full and undivided attention of a half a dozen super creative, super talented people, and every one of those people is basically going to go get their own show, and half of them are going to fail, half of them are going to make something cool, and I'm all for it, because here's another thing that I just wanted to think through out loud. We have no problems conceptually with Darth Vader or Chewbacca, a man in one suit voiced by a different man. So by that logic, is it okay for Luke Skywalker to be a CGI man in a suit voiced by the original actor? Like, we're all okay with that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as
in fact, I think they should completely simulate him in a computer at this point. It'd be fine.
Virtual Mark. Okay with it.
Yeah, and he could do the Joker thing, for the next 150 years. With a really good sampling of his voice.
What I was thinking a lot about a few pieces of these. One is that the last few scenes in the last Avengers movie are basically an animated film. There's almost no human beings. There's faces superimposed, but there's a lot of those characters are full body replacements. I have to assume that we're at a point now, because I wonder, were there any full virtual doubles in this scene, in this episode, for example? Because I assume the stormtroopers, the Death Troopers, were CG'd, and obviously a huge chunk of Mark Hamill was, at least the chin part. So I guess what I'm wondering is, how far are we away from them just doing a live action TV show where it's just the original actors but rendered with motion capture?
Yeah. Well, I mean, does this also close off the potential for new actors as well? Are we just stuck with this slate of actors for
a few years now, right? What was
Fisher.
That movie? Sky King? Was that the movie that
Sky King?
Everything was.
No, Sky Captain.
Sky Captain. The World Tomorrow.
Sky.
No, that had actors superimposed on blue screens.
It also had Gwyneth Paltrow, right? So,
yeah, it was also a bad movie. No, there's just a bunch of overlapping little issues with this, and it feels to me like what they're basically saying is, at least right now, if the actor is still alive and we can use their voice, then we can do anything we want, which is, I'm fine with that. And recasting, I'm fine with that too. I'm wondering how much of these shows, because they've got 3 shows coming out now set in this time period. Harrison Ford will never allow it. Hamill will forever.
Yeah,
he's on the team.
He's a working actor,
He's on the team. Yeah. Tarkin was garbage. Carrie Fisher was worse than Tarkin. But she only had to carry one shot, and it was a fail. Ambalo is talking in chat. I don't know.
It's better than Tarkin. Yeah, everything was better than Tarkin, man.
See, I think Carrie Fisher was the worst of all of them, but...
oh, yeah, no, because that was... talk about corpse fucking... that was an autopsy, for God's sakes.
Well, she was still alive when they released that, or when they made it, right? She approved it and then died, I think, before release.
Have creative approval over her, the flying nun.
No, not that scene. I'm talking about Rogue One, where she's in the last shot of Rogue One.
Yeah. No, Rogue One was terrible. I mean, yeah, it's just...
I didn't like the Carrie Poppins
scene. Really bad... there's some terrible rendering of human beings in the Star Wars universe. Let me just say that.
Yeah,
for sure.
They should just stick to rendering.
Although, so I've been watching a lot of 80s movies lately, and here's the thing, right? Well, like, okay, I watched Splash 2 nights ago. I know. It turns out I've never seen it. Turns out.
Really?
I'm shocked as you are. I felt I had.
Tom Hanks is great.
Tom Hanks is great. But I'm
John Candy's great in that too.
Yeah, John Candy's great. Everybody in that movie's great.
I just how John Candy ended up with the inverse mermaid,
Yeah.
Fish face?
That's the way I'd want him.
But I guess what I'm saying is that in those movies, there are many shots where you're like, well, obviously the head that they blew up was paper mache. That's no more or less bad than the weirdness of the CGI when it's special effects. It's when it's acting, I guess, that we struggle.
Right. It's about the technology available. And also in addition to the quote unquote goodness of how they all look, I think the thing that'll matter most is how cheap it is. Once it gets to the point where you can reasonably and cheaply have an actor, regardless of how good it looks, that's when those things are going to start popping up in movies.
Do either of you guys watch Corridor Crew at all?
Sometimes they pad.
Yeah, for sure. But they did something recently which I thought was pretty interesting.
Or they refaked up Tarkin?
No, well, they did that too. They've done that a few times where they've deep faked old CGI faces. But they did a thing that I thought was pretty cool recently, where the joke was that they were making Avatar 2. And the deal was they had 2 off-the-shelf motion capture suits and off-the-shelf cameras pointing at their faces. And they did the thing where they had the camera, the virtualized camera, where like James Cameron did with Avatar. And they did the whole thing using off-the-shelf stuff. And it looks horrible, but they managed to get the pipeline together to basically do everything that was done in Avatar, which is dudes in suits, motion capture, facial animation, everything. And they did that with, I don't know, 20 grand, 10 grand worth of off-the-shelf parts and a PC.
With Blender and a spandex suit.
Yeah. I feel like we are... like, somebody's going to do this. Scott, you mentioned... you mentioned Sky Captain and the World Tomorrow. That's a great example because that movie was basically the guy made the entire thing in his basement and then at the end went and got the actors to blue screen in the bits. Somebody is going to do the movie version of the Avatar 2 thing that they did in Corridor Crew.
Well, and Gemini Man is a lot of that too, right?
Yeah. But I feel like it's probably going to be a kids movie, like a VeggieTales kind of thing. You think?
It would probably be the easiest to do and the one that would get them the less shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like trying to make it a fantasy or sci-fi, there's going to be a lot of, comic book nerds screaming from their mother's basement about how bad things look. So it seems like that would be a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should.
Kids don't care and parents just want their kids to shut up most of the time when they're sitting in front of that. So
yeah, maybe John Avnet can do he's the guy who did Sky Captain. He can do a gender bent VeggieTales you know, and see if anyone gets upset, you know, if the banana is now a girl.
Just because I'm shaped like a cucumber, don't assume that I'm male.
Don't assume I'm
male. So
well, on that note,
isn't it a super religious show too?
Yeah, it is. Rob's telling us he's got to go. He's got a creative meeting at noon.
No, 12:30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have a creative meeting back.
Well, maybe we'll talk about it when
There you go. There you go. Yeah, Corridor Cruise light cycle sequence was pretty cool too. Amblue mentioned that one. Like I'm kind of indifferent on that channel in general, but as a guide for what you can do with, you know, $5 or $10 grand, I mean, my benchmark for this always is kind of like, what could I do in 1995 to make duck pins? Like that was like the most that like one or two people could do in 1995. I feel like somebody in 2020 is going to make a movie, and they're going to be able to do it like with facial capture, and they're going to be able to make it with motion capture suits. And the real question that I have is, are they going to be able to do it like socially distant, where like you could actually act out a movie, like not like The Host where they did it all on a Zoom call, but like an actual movie where the actors were CGI characters. Because right now, like we're talking about Big Mouth, all of those voices, those guys are recording their voices now in their closets in their houses.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be interesting. Let's say goodbye to Amblue and to Cliffy and to Rob Roseboom.
Yep. Goodbye.
Chris DeBona.
Later.
This has been episode 556 of Geeks in Space. Sorry about the missing audio in the first 20 minutes, but you didn't watch that. You didn't watch this either. Bye.